fun begins.
How's it going?
Hello.
Well, greetings, young Jedi. Hello there.
What's up, everyone? Hybrid Toy Reviews here, and today we are doing another episode of Black Series of Yesteryear. We're talking about Blue Line Wave 4, and this was a really good wave. It completed some things, it brought some new characters. Ultimately, it was a excellent wave for the time. So, this wave featured 3 new characters, 1 repack, which probably made sense, and it was a little bit of a harder wave to find. These were some of the first figures that I had to order. So yeah, Amazon started getting my money for the Black Series at this point. I remember that from back in the day. But let's go ahead and start off and just really quickly talk about our repack. They did repack Han Solo and Stormtrooper Disguise from the prior wave. That wave didn't hit as hard as some other waves had. Him and Bosk were not the easiest figures to find. I had luck and found them at a local Walmart, but not a lot of people did, and Bosk ended up being a fairly desirable figure until they archived him. So, getting another Luke or another Han and Stormtrooper armor out makes a lot of sense in this wave, because this wave then adds his companion piece, Luke Skywalker in Stormtrooper armor, which is an excellent figure in its own right. Now, you may initially think, oh, Luke in Stormtrooper armor, what are they going to do? Just slap Luke's head on a Stormtrooper body? And, well, yeah, but they definitely paid attention to the details here. They did something in the middle of his torso articulation, his, like, chest ball joint, where they shortened him a little bit, because he is a little short to be in a Stormtrooper. It leaves him looking a little bit leggy. I think I probably would have preferred them to shorten the torso a little bit, and then find some way to maybe shorten both the thigh and the calf, just a smidge, just a really, like a scale to look accurately, but it's not bad. It doesn't look bad on the shelf. He just looks like the chest armor's a little bit bulky on him. And then they gave him a new belt, which features a clip for the most losable accessory in the Black Series up until Grogu's shifter knob. They gave Luke the communicator, that little teeny tiny white and black Stormtrooper belt communicator that he keeps communicating with 3PO with, which is just an excellent attention to detail. It is the tiniest accessory, yet it does fit in his left hand very nicely. I've had mine posed on the shelf for years with that in his hand, and no matter how many shelf dives have gone, that has not left his hand. And it clips onto the belt nicely too, if you want to just keep it in belt storage. This is definitely an accessory smaller than a grain of rice. It is begging for the carpet monster to eat it, but it is just really cool that they were willing to give him that kind of accessory at this point in the line. Otherwise, not really a whole ton to say. He is ultimately just the Black Series Stormtrooper with a modified torso and a new belt, but just really cool. Really, really cool to see them working, such details into the line at this point. And then, here we are, 8 waves total into the line so far, finally getting the mastermind behind it all, Emperor Palpatine. Now, Black Series early days, they were a little rough with the head sculpts. The likenesses were halfway there, but it was a lot of painted head sculpts. But they were nailing it with the details on the alien characters. And the nice thing about the Emperor is, while he's human, he is so rough looking that his painted head likeness definitely held up. Don't get me wrong, they have photorealed him since and definitely done a lot better on the Emperor since. But this figure is not a bad figure by any stretch. They definitely did a good job for the era. He's probably one of the standouts, and honestly, they've continued to use this figure in the line ever since. They've tweaked a couple of things. He had a rubber soft good, or a rubber not soft goods, skirt under his soft goods cloak. It made it impossible for him to sit down, but this Emperor didn't come with a throne, so why did you need him to sit down? So he ultimately turned out looking pretty good, as a standing figure. However, then his cane was just a smidge too short, and it wouldn't quite touch the ground unless you posed him kind of hunched. However, he's also the Emperor. You probably did pose him hunched if you were posing him right. And then he has kind of a really nice, evil-looking, the left hand is a grabbing hand, but it also has, like, the index finger out, gesturing, so be it, Jedi. And it's just a really, really good-looking figure. It's one of the best in the early days of the Black Series, in my opinion. And even though they've ultimately given him soft goods for the skirt instead of the rubber skirt under the cloak, the figure that you get today, packaged with Thrones or an archive or anything, is still this very same 2014, 2015 era sculpt. And that probably means something. It means that we're due for a head-to-toe new Emperor. But and truthfully, I mean, like, if you've got him under that robe, who cares what he looks like? But I wouldn't mind seeing what a new emperor would ultimately look like. But it's not at the top of my priority list either. All I really have my emperors doing is just sitting in their throne on the shelf. So, but a really, really legendary addition to the Black Series at this point. And then, rounding the wave out, we finally got the Clone Trooper Captain. This is just the Clone Trooper, the Phase 1 Clone Trooper with the red stripe from Attack of the Clones. And we've talked about these clones before. I'm happy that we have the new sculpt. All these colored, ranked, striped clones, I would really like to see Hasbro do a redo of, hopefully sooner than later, now that we've got our 2023 sculpt. But this guy is really, really cool. I do like him a lot. He was one of the only ones of this set that I actually was able to find in a store. I didn't even do it. But, he was one, he got left behind on the pegs. So I think he was one of the easier ones to get because I ultimately do think people were maybe not super in love with this clone sculpt, because I definitely wasn't. And again, this one just was not the hardest to get. I remember him being somewhat marked down for a time. So for me, personally, I'd already had Han Solo. I got the Emperor and Luke on Amazon. I caught stocks, but I never bought the Clone Trooper Captain. I was always just kind of like, maybe later on I'll get him. I wasn't sweating getting him on day one. And then that summer, my mom and siblings were up visiting my grandmother in Ohio, and I was in Florida because I was a working man at that point. And my brother called me and said, "Hey, we're at Walmart. They have that red striped Clone Trooper on the shelf. Do you want it?" I'm like, yeah, I kind of do want that. And and my Nana, who was bummed I wasn't able to visit, wanted to treat me to a little something. So she just bought it for me, and I will forever treasure this one for that. And when I let go of these, when they get redone, I will hang on to the red one for that ultimately. But very much just a very fun figure. And, they were starting to fill out these ranks of the colored, ranked, rank carrying clones. And I think the red one was a good next choice. It kind of sucks that it took a few years to get the yellow and then several years after that to get the blue, but we will get to them when we get to them. Don't worry, the time is coming. It'll be many, many videos from now, but we'll get there. But those are my thoughts on Blue Line Wave 4. Try not to drag this out too terribly long. It was just a really fun wave back in the day. It had some really good stuff going on in it. And we're getting pretty close to the end. We have one more video on the Blue Line. And once we are through that, we are going to start the long process, which is the Red and Black line. There's something like 25 waves in that, and that's assuming that I don't stop and talk about some of the exclusives, which I don't know if I will. We'll see how I end up structuring it there. But so far, we've only had one exclusive figure in the Blue Line. We will talk about that in the next video. So until next time, may the Force be with each and every one of you. We will talk in a week for more Black Series of Yesteryear. We'll see you next time. Bye.